All right, cool. So steering it back to the security side of things just a little bit. So something that I wanted to ask you, and so I'm going to link up the Spaghetti Dev blog, and there's a bunch of talks on there so people can go and check it out, because I'll definitely recommend that. But in terms of like protecting your app, so one thing that I wanted to ask and get your opinion of is, at this point in time, or maybe at any point in time, do you think that there is any benefit to like root detection and jailbreak detection? And because, you know, some companies, like if your app's rooted or jailbroken, if your phone is, sorry, that it won't run. And because like I've come across this in a project I was working on recently, and my immediate response was like, we're just wasting our time. And that was just from a quick Google, was like, how do you prevent, like, how do you detect root? Okay, you use this library stopped working 3 months ago, and it's like a cat and mouse game. But in terms of the things that you know can be exploited, is there any benefit now to doing that, or are there things that people could be doing that are much better than just, you know, detect root or detect jailbreak and don't run?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I personally have never implemented that on any app that I've worked on. And you're right, it's very much a cat and mouse game, because as soon as there's plenty of solutions out there. The first one that comes to mind is things like root beer, which I'm sure is the most common library that people use for that. But as you know, it's an open source project, so it's not especially difficult to kind of crack, because all the code's in public. So, you know, the cat and mouse game of, as soon as some root detection is implemented, you know, the crackers, the hackers are, you know, one step ahead all the time. There are paid solutions for that, which, you know, I think it really, you know, depends on your use case as well, like whether you really want to go down that route. I mean, if you are bound by, you know, sort of compliance laws, you know, so banking, you know, there's plenty of laws and regulations in that, and, you know, they differ all over the world. So if you're kind of bound by, you know, legal stuff, then yeah, perhaps it's worth doing. You know, I certainly would expect my bank to have as much detection as they can physically put in. But does my tiny little weather app need, I don't know, does it need root detection? Not really. You know, if there's no, I think it's all about being sensible. If you are, where possible, especially, you know, when it comes to sort of user data, you want to be having as minimal user data on your saved to your device as possible. And if you're making API calls, you know, you want to be following the best practices for that as well. Make sure that you're authenticating your calls, you are, you know, using tokens correctly, you're not storing unencrypted sort of passwords or anything on your device, etc. So I think as long as you're following the vast majority of the rest of the best practices, root detection is something that you can most often avoid. Yeah, it's quite a big overhead. It's something that you need to keep on top of. As if you're using a paid for solution, then you're probably slightly better off, because you've at least got probably some guarantees in your contract that, you know, you're going to get updates, etc. Whereas if you're using free solutions, then, you know, it's only a matter of time, really. That's, well, in both cases, you know, the hackers and crackers are so good, you really need to be on top of it. So, yeah, I'd say depending on your use case, I wouldn't say I've got an especially controversial opinion on that. I know people do, but yeah, I think my opinion is it all depends on your use case for sure.